She canceled her son's birthday cake until a billionaire did something that left everyone in tears. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's go back to our main character. The moment Melissa walked into the tiny bakery on Maple Street, the bell above the door jingled with a familiar cheer, but nothing inside her felt cheerful. The warm smell of vanilla frosting and fresh sponge cake used to lift her spirits instantly. Today, it only reminded her of everything she could no longer afford. She held a folded receipt in her hand, creased so many times the ink had started to blur. "It's okay," she whispered to herself, though her throat felt tight. "He'll understand. He always does." The baker, Mrs. Hill, looked up from behind the counter, her glasses sliding down her nose. "Melissa, sweetheart, you're here for the pickup?" Melissa tried to smile, but her voice cracked. "Actually, I need to cancel the order." Mrs. Hill blinked, confused. "The birthday cake? For Tyler? Honey, it's ready in the back. I just need to add the finishing touches." Hearing her son's name nearly broke her last piece of composure. "I'm so sorry. I can't pay for it anymore. Something came up. Something came up." That was the gentle way to say her hours were cut at the diner. The rent just went up again, and she had exactly $12 left until next week. $12. Not even enough for candles, let alone the chocolate fudge cake her little boy had been dreaming about for months. Mrs. Hill softened, lowering her voice. "You've been coming here since Tyler was a baby. We can work something out." But Melissa stepped back, shaking her head. If she accepted help, it would only remind her how helpless she felt. "I can't. Please just cancel it." She turned toward the door before the kindness in that bakery made her crumble completely. Outside, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows over the parking lot. She inhaled a shaky breath, blinking fast to keep tears from spilling. Tyler had been so excited that morning, bouncing on his toes, asking if his cake would have extra frosting. "It's going to be the best birthday ever, Mom," he had said, hugging her waist. Now she wondered how she would even tell him. A paper plate with a dollar store cupcake? Pretend they were celebrating next week? Make up a story about the bakery oven breaking? She hated lying to him. She hated disappointing him even more. Melissa walked toward her old Chevy, each step feeling heavier. She didn't notice the black SUV parked a few spaces away, windows tinted, engine quietly humming. She didn't see the man inside watching her with a puzzled expression, someone who had witnessed her entire exchange through the bakery window. Someone who recognized the look of a parent trying not to break. Someone who, in a few minutes, would change everything. As Melissa gripped her steering wheel and tried to steady her breathing, she murmured, "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm trying." But before she could turn on the ignition, she heard a soft knock on her window. She jumped slightly. A tall man stood outside, well-dressed, his expression warm but cautious, as if he wasn't sure whether to speak. And this was the moment, small, unplanned, unexpected, that would send Melissa's life spiraling toward a twist she never imagined. Melissa froze when she saw the man standing outside her window. He lifted his hand slightly, signaling that he meant no harm. His voice was warm, steady, almost careful. "Ma'am, I am sorry to bother you. I just wanted to make sure you are all right." Melissa unlocked the window a crack, enough to speak, but not enough for the cold air to rush in. "I am fine. Really. Just a rough day." The man nodded as though he had already guessed that. He had the kind of presence that made silence feel less threatening and more like an invitation. His suit looked expensive, though he wore it casually, like someone used to being unnoticed. "I saw what happened in the bakery," he said gently. "You seemed upset." Melissa stiffened, embarrassment sweeping over her. "I should not have made a scene. I am sorry if it bothered anyone." "You did not bother anyone," he replied softly. "But you looked like someone trying very hard to hold everything together." Her throat tightened at how accurately he described it. "It is nothing. I will figure something out. I always do." She tried to end the conversation, reaching for her keys, but he spoke again, slower this time, as if choosing every word carefully. "Is it your son's birthday?" Melissa inhaled sharply. She had not mentioned Tyler. The man saw her reaction and immediately lifted his hands slightly in reassurance. Mrs. Hill said his name when she talked to you. I did not mean to intrude. For a moment, they simply looked at each other through the half-open window, the evening sun painting everything in a soft gold. Melissa exhaled, her voice coming out faint. Yes, today is his birthday, and I had to cancel his cake. Saying it aloud made the truth hit harder than before. He is turning 8, she added quietly, and he has been waiting for this cake for months. The man's expression shifted, something like a memory flickering behind his eyes. 8, he repeated softly. That is a big year. Melissa gave a small, tired smile. He does not ask for much. Just a cake with extra frosting. But I could not. Her voice trailed off. She looked away quickly, blinking fast. She hated crying in front of strangers. The man hesitated, then asked gently, Do you have anything planned for him at home? Melissa shook her head. I was going to bake something small. Maybe some cupcakes. But the oven in my apartment breaks every other day, so. She let the sentence die, realizing how pathetic it sounded. The man was quiet for a long moment, his gaze softening in a way that made Melissa feel exposed. Then he said, May I ask your name? She hesitated but answered, Melissa. Melissa, he repeated, as if committing it to memory. My name is Andrew. He paused, glancing briefly at his SUV, then back at her. I promise I am not here to pry. But if you would allow me, I would like to help. Melissa's chest tightened with a mix of fear and suspicion. Help? You do not even know me. You are right, Andrew said. But I know what it looks like when a parent is trying their best and still falling short through no fault of their own. His voice dipped slightly, as though the words were coming from someplace personal. Melissa swallowed hard. I cannot take charity. I am not offering charity, he said. I am offering a chance to make your son's birthday special. Nothing more. She studied him, unsure why his sincerity unsettled her more than his offer. Something about him felt familiar, not his face, but the heaviness he carried beneath it. Finally, Melissa whispered, Why do you care? Andrew held her gaze, and for the first time, she saw the faint glimmer of grief in his eyes. Because once, he said quietly, someone cared for my child when I could not. Before Melissa could respond, he stepped back slightly, giving her space. If you let me help, I will. If not, I understand completely. She sat frozen, torn between pride and desperation, between fear and the flicker of something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Melissa sat in the driver's seat, fingers curled around her keys, torn in a way that made her chest ache. Andrew stood a respectful distance away, hands relaxed at his sides, not pushing, not insisting, just waiting. That alone made her hesitate. Most people offered help with strings attached, expectations hidden under kindness, but he simply waited, giving her space to breathe. Finally, she whispered through the window, What exactly are you offering? Andrew's expression softened as if he had been hoping she would ask. Nothing complicated, he said. Let me take care of the cake. Melissa blinked, stunned. The cake? But you do not even know what it costs. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. I think I will manage. Melissa shook her head. No, I cannot let you pay for that. It is too much. Andrew stepped closer, stopping at a comfortable distance, lowering his voice so only she could hear. Melissa, you walked out of that bakery with your head held high even though your heart was breaking. That kind of dignity is rare. I am not trying to replace anything. I just want to help your son have the birthday he deserves. She felt her resolve trembling. She thought of Tyler's face that morning, glowing with anticipation. He had been talking about this birthday since Christmas. Why are you doing this? She asked, her voice cracking. Andrew inhaled slowly, as if steadying himself. Because once upon a time, someone stepped in for my child when I did not deserve it. And I never forgot what it meant. He did not elaborate. His voice held a truth that did not need explaining. Melissa finally unlocked the door and stepped out of the car. The air smelled faintly of warm sugar drifting from the bakery vents. What do you need from me? She asked quietly. Nothing, Andrew replied. Just tell me what Tyler likes. For the first time in hours, Melissa felt a small flicker of brightness. Chocolate fudge, with extra frosting. And he loves those little candy stars. Andrew nodded as if receiving important instructions. All right, let us go inside. Melissa hesitated at the bakery door. Moments ago, she had left in shame. Now she was walking back in with a stranger who somehow made the air feel lighter. The bell above the door jingled again, and Mrs. Hill looked up, surprise flickering across her face. "Melissa? Is everything all right?" Before she could stumble through an explanation, Andrew stepped forward politely. "Mrs. Hill, I would like to pay for the birthday cake that Melissa ordered. And if possible, could you add whatever special touches an 8-year-old might love?" Mrs. Hill blinked rapidly, bewildered but touched. "Well, of course I can. I can add the candy stars and maybe a little chocolate drizzle. Kids love that." Melissa whispered, "You do not have to add extra," but Andrew smiled gently. "Let him have it. Let him feel celebrated." Something in Melissa's chest loosened, a knot she had been carrying for months. When Mrs. Hill headed to the back to prepare the finishing touches, Melissa turned to Andrew. "I do not know how to thank you." "You do not have to," he replied. "Just make sure he smiles today." She studied him closer now. Under the polished exterior, there was a heaviness in his eyes, the kind that came from a wound time had not yet healed. She wondered what he had meant earlier about his own child. She wondered if he had lost someone. But before she could ask, Mrs. Hill returned with the finished cake, decorated beautifully with bright stars and thick swirls of frosting. Melissa gasped softly. "He is going to love it." Andrew watched her reaction, a warm, quiet satisfaction crossing his face. He paid for the cake without hesitation, and when they stepped back outside into the golden evening light, Melissa felt something she had not felt in a very long time. The feeling that maybe the world had not given up on her yet. And she could not shake the sense that this man, this stranger, had shown up in her life for a reason she did not yet understand. Melissa balanced the cake box carefully in her hands as she walked toward her old Chevy, the evening sun glinting off the windshield. Andrew walked beside her, keeping a respectful distance, as though he understood that too much kindness too fast could feel overwhelming. When they reached her car, Melissa opened the back door and placed the cake on the seat as if it were made of glass. She lingered for a moment, looking at the bright frosting through the clear top of the box. "He really is going to lose his mind when he sees this," she murmured. Andrew smiled softly. "That is the goal." Melissa straightened, brushing her hands together, suddenly aware of the silence hanging between them. She turned to him. "I do not know how to repay you." Andrew shook his head. "Please do not think of it that way. But it feels wrong to just accept something like this," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "I am not used to people doing things for me." Andrew hesitated, then said gently, "Maybe it is time you let someone." She opened her mouth to reply, but a faint buzzing interrupted them. Andrew reached into his pocket and checked his phone. His expression shifted, tightening, dimming, just for a moment. Then he quickly slipped the phone away. Melissa caught it. "Is everything all right?" He nodded, but the nod came too fast. "Yes, it is nothing." But she remembered his earlier words, the grief in his eyes when he mentioned his child, the heaviness he carried like a shadow he could not shake. Before she could ask what was really going on, he changed the subject. "Will Tyler be home soon?" "He should be," Melissa said. "He gets out of after-school care around 5:30. Melissa paused, then drew a breath. "Would you like to come? Just for a moment. So he can thank you." Andrew froze as if she had just offered him something he did not dare touch. For a long second, he said nothing, and she wondered if she had crossed a line. Then he cleared his throat. "If you are comfortable with that, I would be honored." Melissa smiled, small but sincere. They drove separately, with Andrew following behind in his dark SUV. When they reached her apartment complex, Melissa felt the familiar weight settle in her stomach. The paint on the buildings was peeling, and 2 of the porch lights flickered. She suddenly wished she had had time to tidy up. But this was her reality. No pretending. No glossing over the hard parts. She picked up the cake, and Andrew walked beside her up the cracked concrete steps. "I am sorry it is not much," she said quietly. "This place." Andrew glanced around, then back at her. "It is a home. That is what matters." His tone was warm enough to make her throat sting. They reached her door, and Melissa unlocked it. The living room was small but clean, with a faded couch, a second-hand television, and a hand-drawn birthday banner taped to the wall. Tyler had made it himself last week, using markers from school. Andrew noticed it immediately. "He made this." "Yes," Melissa said, biting back a smile. "He gets excited about anything creative." Andrew's gaze softened. "My daughter used to love making banners too. Every holiday, even the small ones." Melissa looked at him, her heart stumbling over the word used. Before she could ask, the sound of small footsteps echoed from the hallway. "Mom." Tyler's voice was bright, hopeful. A moment later, he rounded the corner, dropping his backpack on the floor. His eyes widened when he saw the cake in her hands. "Mom, you got it. You really got it." He ran to her, hugging her waist tightly, and Melissa closed her eyes, steadying herself. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," she whispered. Andrew stood near the door, hands in his pockets, quietly watching the reunion. Tyler noticed him and tilted his head. "Mom, who is that?" Melissa glanced at Andrew, then back to her son. "This is Andrew. He helped us today." Tyler marched up to him with the fearless confidence of an 8-year-old and stuck out his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Andrew. This is the best birthday ever." Andrew took the small hand in his own, his voice roughening unexpectedly. "You are very welcome, Tyler." And in that moment, Melissa saw it. A flash of something raw behind Andrew's eyes. Something broken. Something aching. Something that told her this cake did not just save her son's birthday. Somehow, it was saving a part of Andrew too. A part she did not yet understand, but would soon learn had been shattered long before this day. Tyler practically vibrated with excitement as Melissa placed the cake on their small kitchen table. The candles stood tall and uneven, but to him, it looked like something out of a dream. Andrew lingered near the door as if unsure whether he should stay or leave, his hands loosely clasped behind his back, his posture polite but distant. Melissa turned to him. "You can stay for the candles if you want. It will not take long." Andrew hesitated, his eyes flicking briefly to the banner on the wall, then to Tyler's eager face. After a moment, he nodded. "I would like that." Tyler climbed onto his chair, unable to stop smiling. "Mom, can Mr. Andrew help me light the candles?" The question hit the room with a soft, unexpected weight. Melissa's eyes widened slightly, and Andrew froze, caught completely off guard. The boy's innocence had no idea what he had touched. Andrew swallowed hard before lowering himself slowly to Tyler's height. "If your mother does not mind, I would be honored." Melissa nodded, though she could not ignore the tightness in Andrew's voice. She handed him the lighter. Andrew flicked it, and the small flames danced to life one by one. As he leaned forward, the warm glow lit his features, and something flickered across his face, something that looked like both joy and pain tangled together. Tyler clapped his hands. "It is perfect." Melissa placed a hand on her son's shoulder. "Go ahead, sweetheart. Make a wish." Tyler squeezed his eyes shut for longer than expected. When he finally opened them and blew out the candles, the lights went out with a soft whoosh. The room erupted in applause from Melissa, and even Andrew let out a quiet laugh. "What did you wish for?" Melissa asked gently. "I cannot tell you," Tyler said proudly, "or it will not come true." Then he leaned in close and whispered loudly, "But it was a good one." Andrew smiled, but Melissa saw it again, that shadow of grief crossing his eyes. After they cut the cake, Tyler took the biggest slice and turned to Andrew. "You have to eat some. It is your cake too." Andrew blinked, stunned by the simple generosity. "Thank you, Tyler, but this is your special day." The boy shook his head. "Mom says birthdays are for sharing." Melissa chuckled softly. "I did say that." Andrew accepted the plate, holding it with both hands as if it were something delicate. He took a bite, and when he did, his expression softened in a way Melissa had not seen before. It was almost like relief. "It is very good," he said quietly. "Really good. Mom makes the best cakes too," Tyler announced proudly. "But our oven is broken a lot." Melissa laughed shyly. "It is fine. We make do." Andrew lowered his gaze for a moment. "You must work very hard." Melissa shrugged gently. "Every parent does. We just do what we can." Tyler was already halfway through his slice when he suddenly looked up. "Mr. Andrew, do you have kids?" The question froze the air. Melissa's breath caught. She opened her mouth to gently redirect the topic, but Andrew spoke first. "I did," he said softly. Tyler tilted his head. "Where is she?" Andrew's eyes glistened, and his voice dropped to something fragile. "She passed away 3 years ago." The room fell silent. Tyler's small face softened with sincere, childlike empathy. He walked over and gently pressed a hand on Andrew's arm. "I am sorry. I bet she loved you a lot." Andrew blinked quickly, trying to maintain composure. "She did. More than anything." Melissa watched him, her heart twisting. The heaviness he carried finally had a shape, a name, a story. She stepped a little closer. Thank you for being here today. I know it cannot be easy. Andrew exhaled shakily. It is easier than being alone. For a moment, the three of them stood together in a tiny apartment lit only by the glow of birthday candles and the flicker of shared grief. And then Tyler tugged at Andrew's sleeve. Do you want to see my room? I have a rocket ship nightlight. Andrew let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. I would like that very much. And just like that, the weight in the room shifted. A small boy was leading a broken man toward the hallway, and Melissa realized something unmistakable. This was no longer just a good deed from a stranger. This was a fragile beginning of something none of them had expected. Tyler grabbed Andrew's hand with the enthusiasm only an 8-year-old could muster and practically pulled him down the narrow hallway toward his bedroom. Melissa followed slowly, her heart tight with a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. She watched Andrew as he stepped into the small room filled with Lego pieces, hand-drawn pictures on the wall, and a rocket ship nightlight glowing softly on the dresser. Something changed in his posture the moment he crossed the threshold. His shoulders loosened, his expression softened, and for a brief second, he looked like a man remembering a world he had lost. Tyler rushed to his dresser and switched off the overhead light so the blue glow of the rocket ship illuminated the room. Look, Mr. Andrew. It looks like space in here. Andrew smiled, and Melissa saw that it was not the polite, restrained smile he had been wearing before. This one reached his eyes. It really does, he said quietly. Tyler climbed onto his small bed, sitting proudly among his stuffed animals. My daughter had a nightlight too, Andrew murmured, almost to himself. But hers was a unicorn. Pink. Very bright. Tyler grinned. Did she like space? Andrew's voice cracked just slightly. She liked everything. She was curious about the whole world. Tyler nodded with the solemn wisdom only children have. I bet she is proud of you. Andrew inhaled sharply, and Melissa could see the way he struggled to contain the wave of emotion rising inside him. She stepped closer and gently touched his arm. We are really glad you stayed, she whispered. Andrew cleared his throat and nodded, grounding himself again. Thank you for letting me. Melissa looked around the small room. The walls were covered with crayon drawings, rockets, superheroes, a messy but adorable family portrait of her and Tyler holding hands. She wondered what Andrew saw. Did it remind him of what he had lost? Or did it bring something back to life inside him? Tyler hopped off the bed and grabbed a crumpled superhero cape from the floor. This is my flying cape, he announced. Do you want to see me fly? Melissa laughed softly. No flying off the furniture tonight, please. It is still your birthday, not the emergency room. Tyler groaned dramatically, then looked up at Andrew. Will you come back? Maybe tomorrow? Or Saturday? Saturdays are the best. We eat pancakes. Andrew hesitated, taken aback by the simple invitation. His voice lowered. If it is all right with your mother. Tyler turned to Melissa with wide hopeful eyes. Mom, please. Melissa looked at Andrew. She saw how carefully he waited, as if afraid of overstepping. She nodded. You can come by if you want. It would be nice. For the first time, Andrew looked truly stunned. I would like that, he said softly. Very much. Tyler cheered and ran back into the living room, leaving the two adults alone in the quiet glow of the nightlight. Melissa leaned against the doorframe, studying Andrew's face. It has been a long time since someone asked you into their world, has it not? Andrew let out a breath, almost a laugh, but not quite. Yes, a very long time. You are good with him, she said. You really are. Andrew looked down at his hands, surprised. I did not think I would be. After everything, I was not sure I would ever feel comfortable around children again. Melissa stepped closer, lowering her voice. You were not just comfortable. You were kind, and patient, and present. That is rare. Andrew met her eyes, and for the first time, he did not look away. I forgot what it felt like, he admitted, to be part of something warm. Her breath caught. You are welcome here, Andrew. The words left her before she could rethink them. He blinked, as if no one had said those words to him in years. Thank you, Melissa. That means more than you know. Just then, Tyler's voice echoed from the living room. Mom. Mr. Andrew. Cake round 2. Melissa laughed and shook her head. Duty calls. Andrew's lips curved into a gentle smile. Lead the way. And as they walked back toward the glow of the living room, something unspoken began to bloom between them. Something fragile, unexpected, and full of the quiet warmth both of them had been missing for far too long. Tyler's laughter filled the living room as Melissa and Andrew returned from the hallway. The boy was already perched on the couch with another slice of cake, swinging his legs happily while crumbs gathered around him like confetti. Melissa sighed with playful exasperation. "Tyler, sweetheart, slow down. You will make yourself sick." Tyler grinned, frosting on his cheek. "It is my birthday. I cannot get sick on my birthday." Andrew chuckled softly, taking a seat at the edge of the armchair. His posture relaxed in a way Melissa had not seen before, as if the warm clutter of the small apartment eased something inside him. Melissa went to the kitchen to fetch napkins, glancing back to see Andrew watching Tyler with an expression she could not quite read. It was tender but shadowed, as though every joyful sound reminded him of something painful. When she returned, Tyler was already talking a mile a minute. "Mr. Andrew, do you know how to build Lego spaceships? I make them really big, but they always fall apart when I try to make the wings." Andrew leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I used to build them with my daughter," he said quietly. "She made everything pink, even the spaceships." Tyler giggled. "Pink spaceships are awesome." Melissa watched the exchange with a swelling ache in her chest. Andrew was trying so hard to stay composed, but his eyes glistened at the corners. She gently handed him a napkin without a word. He took it, offering her a brief, grateful smile. After a while, Tyler jumped off the couch and ran to his room to grab his favorite Lego box, leaving Andrew and Melissa alone for a moment. The apartment hummed with the quiet comfort of dishes drying, candles flickering, and the faint sound of Tyler rummaging through toys. Melissa leaned against the kitchen counter, crossing her arms loosely. "I have never seen Tyler warm up to someone this quickly," she said softly. Andrew looked down at his hands. Children see things adults do not. They know when someone is hurting. The honesty in his voice made her heart stutter. "Are you hurting, Andrew?" He exhaled, a deep, trembling breath that seemed to loosen something heavy inside him. "Every day," he whispered. "I lost her in a car accident. It happened so fast. One morning she was drawing rainbows on the kitchen floor, and by evening, his voice broke, and he had to pause, pinching the bridge of his nose." Melissa stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am so sorry." Andrew nodded, swallowing hard. "My wife could not handle the grief. She left 6 months later. I tried to keep going, to keep the house together, to stay busy with work, but the silence was too much. I stopped celebrating holidays. I stopped going out. I stopped being part of the world." He looked around her small apartment, taking in the birthday banner, the mismatched plates, the laughter echoing faintly from down the hall. "Tonight is the first time in years that I have been in a home that feels alive." Melissa felt tears prick her eyes. "We are nothing fancy here, just trying our best." "That is exactly what I miss," Andrew said. "The ordinary moments." Before she could respond, Tyler came barreling back into the room with the Lego box held triumphantly over his head. "Mr. Andrew, come help me. We have to build the biggest spaceship ever." Andrew wiped his eyes quickly and straightened, putting on a warm smile. "All right, let us see what we can make." They sat on the floor with Tyler, pieces scattered around them, while Melissa watched from the couch. Tyler gave instructions as if he were the commander of a real space mission. Andrew followed along, adding careful touches and letting Tyler take the lead. As the ship took shape, Melissa noticed something remarkable. Andrew was smiling. Not the soft, polite smiles from earlier, but a real one. Bright, unburdened, human. When the spaceship was finally finished, Tyler jumped up and raised it above his head like a trophy. "We did it. This is the best birthday ever." He then wrapped his arms around Andrew's neck without hesitation. A tight, sudden hug that made Andrew freeze in surprise. Slowly, almost reverently, Andrew hugged him back. Melissa felt something shift in the room. Something deep. Something healing. When Tyler finally let go and ran off to display his masterpiece in his room, Andrew stayed seated on the floor, staring at the doorway with a look that said the hug had cracked something open inside him. Melissa sat down beside him, their shoulders almost touching. Andrew spoke in a soft, shaken voice. "Your son. He reminds me that there is still good left in the world." Melissa swallowed the lump in her throat. "There is. And you deserve to feel it again." Andrew turned his head, meeting her eyes. "Thank you for letting me be part of this night. You made it better," she whispered. His gaze softened in a way that made her chest flutter. They sat there quietly, surrounded by Lego pieces and the glow of birthday candles melting into soft pools of wax, unaware that this night was only the beginning of a far deeper bond forming between all three of them. The night wound down slowly, the kind of slow that felt warm rather than heavy, as if none of them wanted to be the first to break the spell. Melissa began gathering the stray Lego pieces while Tyler brushed his teeth in the bathroom, humming a birthday tune to himself. Andrew helped pick up a few bricks, but his movements were distracted, thoughtful, as if his mind were pulled between two worlds. Melissa finally looked over at him. "You are quiet," she said gently. "Are you all right?" Andrew rested his hands on his knees and exhaled. "I am more all right than I have been in years," he said, almost in disbelief. "But that almost makes it harder." Melissa paused. "Harder how?" He turned his head slowly, meeting her gaze with eyes that seemed older than they had earlier in the evening. "Because when you go without something for so long, sometimes having a small taste of it again hurts." She did not speak, letting the truth settle between them. He continued, voice soft but steady. "Tonight reminded me of what a home feels like. The sound of a child laughing. A real meal. Warm lights. People who look at you like you matter." Melissa's chest tightened, not out of pity, but out of understanding. "You do matter, Andrew." His expression wavered, as if no one had said those words to him with sincerity in a very long time. Before the moment could deepen, Tyler burst back into the room in dinosaur pajama pants. "Mom, Mr. Andrew, can I show him my comic books before bed?" Melissa laughed. "One. Only one. It is a school night." Tyler grabbed Andrew's hand and marched him toward his room again with absolute authority. Andrew went along willingly, shooting Melissa a helpless, amused expression as he was pulled away. She watched them disappear into the hallway, and a warmth unfurled inside her. It was not romantic, at least not yet. It was something steadier, deeper. Trust. After a few minutes, Tyler was tucked into bed. Melissa peeked in, leaning on the doorframe. Tyler was already half asleep, clutching his new spaceship creation on the blanket beside him. Andrew stood next to the bed, watching him with a tender expression that made Melissa's heart twist. "Good night, Commander Tyler," Andrew whispered. "Sleep well." Tyler mumbled, "Night, Mr. Andrew," and drifted off completely. Melissa quietly closed the door behind them. They returned to the living room where the candles were mostly melted and the leftover cake sat beneath its plastic cover. The television glowed faintly on the wall, playing some late-night commercial neither of them paid attention to. Melissa folded her arms lightly. "Thank you for being so wonderful with him," she said. "He needed a night like this." I think we all did." Andrew nodded slowly. "I was thinking about something on the drive over earlier," he said quietly. "I was not sure if I should say it, but after tonight, I feel like I owe you the truth." Melissa's stomach tightened, unsure where this was going. What truth? He hesitated, and she saw the shift in his eyes again, the one that happened when the past tugged at him too hard. "I was not just passing by the bakery today," he admitted finally. "I was there because I have been trying to figure out how to feel okay in the world again. I go to places that used to make my daughter happy. Bakeries, parks, stores with bright colors. I sit in the car and try to remind myself that the world can still be gentle." Melissa's breath caught. "Andrew." He held up a hand softly, not to silence her, but to keep himself from unraveling. "Today, when I saw you crying at the counter, something about it pulled me out of myself. You were hurting, but you kept going. You chose dignity over despair. And something in me woke up." Melissa felt her own eyes sting. "You helped me when you did not have to. That says something about you too." A faint, tired smile touched his lips. "Maybe, but tonight, it felt like your home gave something back to me." She stepped closer, and he did not move away. "You are welcome here," she repeated softly. Andrew's voice dropped lower, nearly a whisper. "Melissa, I do not want to overstep. But if you ever need anything at all, I want to be there. Not out of charity, not out of guilt, but because tonight made me remember that I am still capable of being part of someone's life." The confession hung in the air, fragile but sincere. Melissa nodded once, slowly. "Then let us take it one day at a time." Andrew exhaled, something easing in his shoulders. "I would like that. More than you." "No." He walked her to the door, but neither of them rushed. When he finally stepped outside, the night was still and cool. He paused, looking back with a soft, grateful smile. "Good night, Melissa." "Good night, Andrew." And as he walked toward his SUV, Melissa watched him with the unmistakable feeling that this night did not just change a birthday. It changed the direction of all their lives. Andrew drove away that night with his hands gripping the steering wheel just a little too tightly, his breath unsteady in a way he had not experienced since before his life fell apart. But for the first time in years, the ache in his chest did not feel like something crushing him. It felt like something loosening, something thawing. The next morning, he sat in his office on the top floor of Carter Industries, staring at the skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. His assistant knocked gently. "Sir, the board is waiting for you." Normally, he would have walked into those meetings with the cold precision of someone who had nothing left to lose. But today, his mind kept drifting back to a small apartment with peeling paint, to a boy proudly holding up a Lego spaceship, and to a woman who offered him kindness without knowing who he was. During the meeting, he barely spoke. His mind was somewhere else entirely. By noon, he closed his laptop and told his assistant, "Hold my calls. All of them." That afternoon, he found himself driving toward Maple Street again, the same route he took the day before, except this time his heart beat with something unfamiliar. Anticipation. When he arrived at Melissa's apartment, he hesitated before knocking. He had no idea if showing up again so soon would seem intrusive, but something inside him urged him forward. When the door opened, Melissa looked surprised for a moment, then smiled warmly. "Andrew." "Hi." He exhaled quietly, relieved. "I hope this is not a bad time." "Not at all," she said, stepping aside. "Come in. Tyler is at school." But her voice softened. "I am glad you are here." The living room was tidier than the night before, but the birthday banner still hung slightly crooked on the wall. The Lego ship sat proudly on the table, as if it were part of the home's decor now. Andrew glanced at it, and a smile tugged at his mouth. They sat together on the couch, not too close, but close enough that the air felt warm between them. Melissa tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I have been meaning to ask, why did you really come back?" Andrew looked down at his hands before answering. "Because when I left last night, I realized something. Your home felt like a place my heart recognized. I did not think I would ever feel that again." Melissa's eyes softened. "Andrew," he continued, the words coming slowly but honestly, "after my daughter passed, I shut the world out. I stopped answering friends. I buried myself in work. I stopped being someone who could show up for others because I could not even show up for myself." He turned toward her, emotion gathering in his voice. "But last night, you and Tyler, you let me feel human again." Melissa placed her hand gently over his. "You are human, Andrew. You always were. You just forgot what it felt like." He closed his eyes briefly, breathing in the comfort of her touch. "I want to help," he said quietly. "Not out of pity. Not because I think you cannot manage. But because I want to be part of your world, if you will let me." Melissa's breath hitched, but not out of fear, out of something hopeful and fragile. "I think," she whispered, "that you already are." Over the next few weeks, Andrew became a steady presence. He visited on Saturdays for pancake mornings. He helped Tyler build Lego towers that reached nearly to the ceiling. He fixed Melissa's oven when it sparked and died, then replaced it entirely when he realized it was beyond repair. She protested, but he simply said, "Every home deserves a working kitchen," and left it at that. Melissa found herself laughing more. Tyler smiled more. Even Andrew's posture changed. He carried himself like a man rediscovering color in a world he once believed would stay gray forever. Then one crisp Sunday afternoon, the three of them walked through the park together. Tyler ran ahead, chasing leaves, while Melissa and Andrew walked side by side beneath the trees. Melissa looked up at him. "You look lighter these days." Andrew's eyes followed Tyler as he spun in circles. "That is because I have something to look forward to now." Melissa's heart fluttered, and for a moment they simply walked in silence. Eventually, Andrew stopped near a bench, turning toward her with a seriousness that made her breath catch. "Melissa, there is something I need to tell you." She faced him, steady. "What is it?" He took a breath. "I want to support you and Tyler. Truly. Not just for now, but long term. I want to be someone you can count on. Someone he can count on." Melissa's eyes glistened. "You already are." He shook his head softly. "I mean, I want to do this the right way. Not rushed. Not forced. But with honesty." His voice dipped gently. "I care about you, Melissa. And Tyler. More than I thought I would ever be capable of caring again." Melissa felt her heart swell, warm and full. Andrew, we care about you too. Tyler sprinted back toward them, arms full of leaves. Mom, Mr. Andrew, look what I found. Andrew knelt, opening his arms as Tyler collided into him with a burst of giggles. Melissa watched them, tears gathering in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the quiet realization that something beautiful had taken root. A family, not the one any of them expected, but the one all three desperately needed. Andrew lifted Tyler into his arms and looked at Melissa with a soft, hopeful smile. In that moment, the truth was undeniable. This ordinary birthday, which had begun with heartbreak and a canceled cake, had become the beginning of a whole new life. A life filled with healing, with second chances, and with the kind of love that quietly rebuilds what once felt broken beyond repair. And as the three of them walked home together under the golden afternoon sun, anyone watching would have easily mistaken them for what they were becoming. A family, a real one,